Hi everybody, Matt and
Danielle.
Back with you. Hope you're okay. Our road trip continues, and today we start in Sheerness on the Isle of Sheppey. Look at this abandoned, I guess like an old church building, all burnt out. Not what we've come to look for today, and we can't get in. So let's head to the sea, and I'll tell you what today's adventure awaits us. Along the Thames Estuary here, there are a number of remaining forts, army forts, navy forts and barracks, like behind us here on the hillside. We can't get to it, barracks. But yeah, all on here on the Thames. The defence of England was here. Right out at sea are the Red Sands and Shivering Sands forts, and we're going to head out to Red Sands fort and have a look at that. It's a long way out, so we're either going to swim or we're going to catch a boat. Okay, so we are now on the X-Pilot, heading to Sea Forts. Excited?
Yeah.
Very. Wow. I think this is our first sea adventure on this channel. So yeah, it's gonna be good. The Maunsell Sea Forts were built in the Thames Estuary during World War II, designed to help the UK defend itself. Named after their designer, Guy Maunsell. The Red Sands Forts are one of 3 sets of army forts designed for anti-aircraft defence, the other 2 being Nore and Shivering Sands. Nothing remains of Nore. It was dismantled in 1959 after being ruined by both a storm and a Norwegian ship colliding with it. The Shivering Sands forts, much further out to sea than Red Sands, also saw one tower collapse after a ship collided with it. The rest of the towers still stand today. Further out again are the navy forts, such as this one. It's called Knock John. I believe this is the only one left standing today. The rest have been dismantled, though parts of them can still be seen sticking out of the sea. The Red Sands forts comprised 7 towers, which were connected by metal walkways. A control room from the centre tower, and then the outer towers being used to defend various points of the water. The defence in the war from the forts saw 22 enemy aircraft shot down and 30 flying bombs destroyed. So we are heading out on a ship called the X-Pilot, and it is captained by Alan and Officer Martin, who are incredibly knowledgeable and really have a great appreciation of the Maunsell Sea Forts. There's various tours throughout the year. We're only doing the shorter tours today when we go past the wreck of the SS Richard Montgomery and then out to the Red Sands Fort. However, there are tours that can take up to 7 or 8 hours, which also go past things like what's ahead of us here, the Grain Battery Tower, which we're going to attempt to look at tomorrow if the tide is low. It also takes you out to the Shivering Sands Forts and even as far as the Knock John Fort. Definitely worth the experience if you are down on the Kent coast. The forts, after being decommissioned, became the home of pirate radio stations in the 1960s. Shivering Sands Fort used to send out broadcasts from Screaming Lord Sutch. Pirate radio was done to try and play music that wasn't under the control of companies like the BBC. They could play whatever, say whatever, and was often the best way to hear new music at the time. They would also advertise local info and businesses. The Red Sands Fort radio station was Radio 390, broadcast from 1965 to 67. This was followed by Radio Invicta and King Radio before that. Patrick McGowan filmed an episode of Danger Man here whilst the station was still in use. This episode, entitled Not So Jolly Roger, gives a great example of what the forts looked like back in the 1960s, complete with the metal walkways between them, which no longer exist today. By 1968, pirate radio had left the forts and they were essentially abandoned. In 1968, Patrick Troughton was Doctor Who, and the now abandoned forts were used for location filming. They stood in for a North Sea gas refinery besieged by an intelligent seaweed monster in a 6-part story called Fury from the Deep. Location filming for the earlier episodes in the story had taken place in Botany Bay. It's only by episode 5, where the Doctor ends up flying a helicopter out to the forts, do we see them for the first time. However, sadly today, we cannot see them. Because despite being a much-loved story, it's been unseen in its original form since broadcast due to the BBC destroying its own archive. And although many episodes have been returned of 1960s Doctor Who, only clips of Fury from the Deep remain, and now after 55 years, highly unlikely to be seen again. However, the story does exist in an animated version, and the ex-pilot team took out some of the surviving crew and cast members to look at the fort.
This is amazing. The fact it's still here is like magic, isn't it? And look at all this.
Good Lord.
Wonderful.
Pretty corroded.
I can't believe that we're back here after 50 years in this wonderful, wonderful place. I mean, it is magical, isn't it?
I'm amazed it's still here, actually, after another 50 years. It's pretty bad when we came here last time.
That's right.
The forts were, for a while, still accessible, but in 2021, structural defects and potential collapse into the sea means they are no longer accessible. Also filmed at the fort was the Prodigy music video for Invaders Must Die, where a giant ant appears on top of one of the forts. Doctor Who, Danger Man, The Prodigy. It's now the turn of the dark side of the moor. Okay, so you may have noticed we suddenly are not on that ship anymore. Guess which one of us gets violently seasick and just found out today. Yeah. So there we go. Probably our one and only trip to sea for the dark side of the moor, but what an amazing place. And despite what happened, still, wow, just amazing to go out and see those. Yeah, real piece of history, from Doctor Who to Prodigy music videos to pirate radio to then now just being an extraordinary abandoned location. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope there's enough footage to cover it. We may well hit the Grain Battery Tower next if we're lucky with the tide, but if not, see you for our next video. And yeah, I'm off to bed. Take care. Bye.
Bye.